Michiel Huisman, welcome to Q. Nice to see you.
Thank you.
So I want to talk about this film, The Other Lamb. You play Shepherd. Please don't take this the wrong way, but you're very creepy in it. You're a cult leader alone in the woods with a flock of sheep, a gaggle of geese, an all-female congregation of followers called the Flock. Before we get into some of kind of the themes of this, you know, when you got this part, what was your reaction to it?
Well, it was such a disturbing story. But I also felt that maybe on some level it could have a lot of relevance to the current climate, you know, you know, especially as like in the sense that how it sort of shows this is in an extreme way this patriarchal society, and it deals with the subject of female oppression. I was familiar with the director's movies, her previous movies, Mug and Body, and I love Margot's work. I just felt like this could be like at the total other end of the spectrum of anything I've done in the last 10, 15 years.
You felt like a risk?
Yes, it felt like a big risk, because it's definitely a way out crazy character.
Yeah.
Last night we had the world premiere here at TIFF. It was really exciting. It was also for me the first time to see it on the big screen. I had seen like a rough cut on my laptop, low resolution. It was like you couldn't really tell what how the movie was going to turn out. Seeing it on the big screen last night, it's just like, oh my God, it's intense.
It is intense. Like, how did you put yourself in the mindset of a cult leader? Like, did you have to do some specific research around that?
Well, of course, there's so many great documentaries.
I thought you were going to say there are so many great cult leaders. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's so many great documentaries, you know.
Yeah, there's so many great documentaries. Of course, you know, ranging from Wild Wild Country that everybody saw, of course, to like crazy stuff, like, for example, Holy Hell, which is another documentary. I think it's out on Netflix, and it's on the other end of the spectrum, because often I notice the cult leaders they're a bit Jesus-like, and when you watch Holy Hell, this guy's like always wearing only a Speedo, and he's only wearing his dark Ray-Bans, and it made me realize that these cult leaders, they come in all different shapes, and it gave me, I think, a little bit of a freedom to say, okay, let's just reinvent our shepherd.
Were there specific sources you were drawing from? I only asked because we were talking on the way in about I was thinking about Jim Jones, our producer was thinking about Charles Manson. Were there specific cult leaders you were drawing from in doing this role?
No, because at a certain point, after watching, let's say 4 or 5 different documentaries, I decided, okay, now I've seen enough. Now let's forget about all of that and try to find my own inner cult leader.
So the film has a majority female cast, including a female director, screenwriter. The themes explored.
That was. Sorry to interrupt you. That was also from the get-go one of the things that really appealed to me, to be playing the only male character in this entire story.
So how do you? I mean, there's so much violence and kind of corrupt psychology. And you have to be kind of awful in this movie.
Very awful.
How do you, when cut is called, is it challenging to step away from that? Does that do something to you psychologically?
Yeah, no.
Come on.
Well, maybe, no, but, you know, I don't want to, yeah, I don't want to be sitting here like all methody, almost took me down his path, and like no, but
Why not?
Well, I don't know.
It's interesting to me because it's interesting to me. I'm not an actor; I'm a musician. So like, it's interesting to me how you can in 1 second be this violent, abusive cult leader, and then the next second
and then
be
you
eating
hit the end court, and then it's over. It's not over, of course. It stays in your system.
Yeah.
And so, and I use that also, but I always use that, to be honest, and that's why often the first couple of days of a shoot are hard because it's not in your system. And then after a couple of days, it is just there, and you start to have to work less hard for it, and it comes more natural, I guess. But I rarely get to play a character that's so extreme as the character that I get to play in The Other Lamb. And even though it was like a very character, it was very satisfying, a very satisfying process in that regard. As an actor, it's the kind of roles you can sink your teeth in.
Did it lead to some conversations around? I mean, while I was watching it, I was thinking about power. I was thinking about feminism. I was thinking about religion and faith. Did it lead to any conversations you were having off set with cast members, or at least off camera? Talking about maybe with the director or maybe with the cast members about these things.
Well, absolutely. Well, but I guess that what we try to do is really have all those conversations in place before we started shooting.
Like what kind of conversations?
I think it was mostly with Margot about the message of the movie, and it's one thing to play a character that is so manipulative and mean to all these women around him, but for her, it was always, in the end, a story about girl power. And I guess I feel that now that I watch the movie, even though it takes a long time for one of my daughters to stand up against me, I see what she intended and what she meant when we first had that conversation, where she said, "Don't worry, you can be this horrible man." Because in the end, it's about this woman that finds her own voice, finds her own power.
Don't worry. Like you needed some permission to be that awful.
Yes. Yeah.
I guess that's interesting to me. It is,
But that all happens before you start shooting,
right?
Because then when you decide, okay, I'm going to do it.
Yeah.
Then I do it, and then I don't question my character. Then I don't even think he's horrible, because then I would be on the outside, constantly judging my own character. No, if I'm playing the guy, I can't completely empathize with him. I understand he has a lot on his shoulders. He needs to take care of 20 women.
Yeah, but sure. But I know, but that's interesting to me. It's interesting to me that you can play this violent person. And this is not a judgment on my part. I get it. Like, you can play this violent person. To me, when I watched it, unredeemable person. But I understand that in order to play...
I realized that yesterday, too, when I saw it on the big screen.
You were like, oh, God, I am terrible.
This is the end of my career. This will be the last movie.
Not at all. But I understand that in order to play someone that's terrible, you must have to empathize with them. You can't play someone who you think is terrible, right?
Yeah, no, you must. And that's I guess one of the things that I love about acting, that you're forced to get into your character's mind,
even in
his motivations.
Even in non-Hollywood, I know that I've heard stories about doctors having to learn how to act like their patients. They need to learn how to act like they have cancer. They need to learn to act like they have heart problems. Okay. In order to have empathy for those who are, you know what I mean?
Yes. Yeah.
This makes sense to me.
Cool.
We're gonna bring in a doctor right now. It's gonna be really good. Was horror a thing you've always been interested in? Were you like a horror kid?
No, not per se.
No. You weren't going to the back of the video store looking for the ones with the taped on.
No,
Right.
Because I always got very scared watching horror movies, so I was never really drawn to it. But it was such a great script, but also never really knew what it was going to be.
Right.
Is it straight up horror? I mean, it's very scary. It's very tense.
It's scary, and The Haunting of Hill House, the other, I also see you in sort of that world too.
Yes.
Also very terrifying. So that's why I was I was wondering if there's something
Yes.
that's drawing you to scary roles right now.
No, that is just a coincidence. I just try to pick, if I can, good projects with great filmmakers, and I'm curious to hear where the audience thinks that this movie falls in, because yes, it's very scary and we might call it horror, but it is also this insanely beautiful, full-on art house movie, shot in a way that, you know, it's been a long time since I saw a movie that looked so thrilling to me.
Can you think?
And I'm excited to be a part of that. I can't believe it.
I can tell.
Jeez.
Can you think of a film you watched when you were young that maybe you weren't ready for? That maybe was a little too scary for you as a kid, Michiel?
Yes, that would have been probably Chucky.
Child's Play.
Child's Play. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that maybe might have been the beginning and the end.
So why?
Of
Like
horror for me.
you were a kid. It was rented. You were sitting on the floor.
Yes. I thought it would be fun. I was probably 10 years old, and I'd never watched a horror movie again, unless I'm in it and then I'm watch it once.
Then I didn't care about not that I didn't care. I was not a horror person at all before I started doing the show, and then I was kind of being asked to go see horror films. And
yeah, well, I think it's also maybe a bit like spicy food. Like once you start to eat a bit more spicy, you can handle more. So
I want to stay kind of back when you were watching Chucky and being terrified on your parents' rug. I found this out that you were also a child star. You were a child star in the Netherlands. What drew you to acting first? Where did that passion for acting come from?
Oh, yeah, it's true. I started as a kid. It was just one of the things I did and I enjoyed doing. I guess it was maybe had to do with enjoying the attention that it brought me, or maybe when I got a little older, I started to enjoy telling stories. I remember doing a movie when I was about 17 years old, and I think that was the first time that I really felt the power of telling a story that was that felt important to me. It was based on a biography of a Dutch author, and it was about him growing up. Actually, funny enough, not in a cult, but as a Jehovah's Witness, and he eventually was expelled for doing stuff that he wasn't, having a girlfriend, smoking cigarettes, drinking alcohol, stuff like that, stuff like 17-year-olds do.
Yeah, sure.
And it was such an intense story because in this man's case, it meant that his own family also completely expelled him. They didn't want to have anything to do with him anymore from, one day on the next. And so I was 17 years old, meeting this man who wrote this story, reading his book, visiting a Jehovah's Witness service, and I was like, oh my God, I'm telling stories that have relevance in the world. And I think that probably I'm always trying to go back to that same feeling whenever I'm making a movie or doing a series. And I don't always succeed. And every now and then I feel lucky that I make a movie that gives me that same fire, like The Other Lamb gave me. Yeah.
Is it... I feel like being a child star in the Netherlands or being a child star in Europe is maybe a little bit different than being a child star in Hollywood, Because,
yeah, I think so, too. Although, I guess the only thing I can only compare it by looking at the kids I work with on sets. But for me, it was never a career as a kid. There was no... I never made any money, or it was really just for fun. And I also actually like until my late teens, I was always busy shooting something on the side, but really I thought, no, I'm going to be a musician.
Right.
That's way more fun.
It is very fun, by the
Yeah.
way. Yeah, yeah.
Until I realized, well, it's also a lot of work. But that whole band, you got
Yeah, you got to get in that van and drive for
Oh my
16,
God.
17
No,
hours.
it was
yeah.
an amazing time, and I
Yeah.
did all that for
Yeah,
years.
yeah.
But then I came to a point in my life where I felt like I was juggling two careers, and I am not. It actually happened that I was visiting New York, and this was probably 20 years ago. No, yeah, something like that. And my wife and I walked into just for fun into like one of those psychic palm reading places. I'm totally not into that kind of stuff, but it was just for fun.
Sure,
And,
yeah.
and she read my palm, and she literally said, "You're juggling two careers." And she's like, one is like in, I don't know exactly what she said, like in music, and the other one is something creative, whatever. And, you have to choose. Okay, and then I knew, okay, this is insane.
Really?
But she's right.
It was like
I
that.
have to choose.
It was
because,
that kind of accurate, really?
Yes. Wow. Yes.
And
And
you
I
did-
never regret that choice, by the way.
No, and do you remember when you made the choice? Was it like you walked outside of the palm reader's house and went, all right, I guess I'm an actor?
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, yes, yeah. So I guess it was probably like 22 by then.
Do you want to put those on?
Yeah, I would love to.
Let's do it.
Let's do it.
Let's do it.
What's going to happen if we put them on?
Our heads are going to explode. We're going to grow horns.
In herinnering een glinstering, zij lacht de kaart uit de kachel aan. Oh ja.
Yeah, that's true.
Flauw
I didn't expect
licht
this.
valt over haar gezicht als een ster aan de hemel, die al lang verdwenen is.
Oh, come on.
Oh, come on.
Come on.
Okay.
Do you want to tell us what that is?
Yeah, okay, so that is... well, that's an example of the music I used to play.
That's your band, right? Fontaine?
Yeah, that was one of my early bands, and we released a few singles with that band, and made and then afterwards we made an album, and then then I had to make a decision.
Right. But even though you make a decision to not pursue music as a career, I know it's hard to stop that creative well. If you're used to writing songs, it's hard to stop. So do you still find yourself writing songs? Do you still find yourself making music?
No,
Really?
no, not at the moment. No, and every now and then it bothers me, and I feel the urge to pick up a guitar or and make an effort to play a bit more, but I know it will come in waves. Yeah. So I was very, very fortunate to work on a project like, for example, on Treme, this HBO show that I did before Game of Thrones.
Yeah, that's kind of where I know you. That's what I know you from.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, okay, good.
That is one of those rare occasions where we were actually playing everything live.
So you played the guitar in that?
Oh yeah, like everything. But no, the thing is, I was cast for on the show playing guitar, but then because of Steve Zahn's character playing guitar as well, they wanted me to play piano. So, they said, okay, so we would love for you to join the show, but do you play piano? Of course I play piano. I literally only knew how to play a C chord.
Oh, don't worry about it. I'm an expert. I'm good.
No,
I'm Alan Toussaint. I'm great.
Yeah, exactly. But this show was made for me because I grew up listening to, even though that's what we just listened to was definitely not that, but I grew up listening to New Orleans funk and jazz. And
Like Dr. John and
totally,
and stuff like that.
Totally.
Yeah, yeah.
And the Meters is my all-time
Yeah.
favorite band in the world.
I love the Meters too. I love Professor Longhair.
I love Fest, but if I
You guys can leave, by the way. We're just going to keep.
Only
We're just
allowed
going to
to
keep
take
talking
one
about.
band with me, it will be the Meters.
I love. Yeah, the Meters are incredible.
And I've started listening to that when I was a teenager, and I still listen to it, and it still can really move me. So I locked myself up for weeks and played until I was able to do a little bit of a left hand and a right hand thing going on, doom, ba, do da, do da, 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 like a little basic, slow Fats Domino kind of situation. That was one of those amazing projects that I guess I'm just about ready for again, to do something where I'm playing and combine those passions.
You would have been great in that Rocket Man movie. You would have been great as Elton. Yeah, you could have done that.
Yeah,
one.
but he was great too.
You know,
right?
maybe when there's a Billy Joel retrospective, you can get in there and do.
Okay.
We didn't start the fire. I got to ask you about this because you mentioned, you know, I was in Tremé before. I was in Game of Thrones.
Yes.
Of course, you were in Game of Thrones, where you played Dario Naharis, fan favorite for sure. How did you feel about the ending of the whole thing?
Yeah, I mean,
There's no laser pointed at your head right now, is there?
No. But you know, eventually all great shows have to come to an end. I'm really excited to hear that they're making a prequel, so we get a bit more.
Yeah.
A bit more of the before. I'm curious to see what they're going to do with that.
Are you comfortable with the fact that, like, I told people I was talking to, I'm more of a Tremé guy than a Game of Thrones guy, but I was talking to friends of mine that I was talking to who said, oh, you're talking to, you know, from Game of Thrones. Are you comfortable that that's gonna stick with you for a while at least?
I'm grateful that it's, I mean, I'm very grateful for what the show has done for me. I think it really opened some doors, and for a lot of us actually on the show, probably. And that will probably stick with me for a bit, and that's okay.
You know, I just think
maybe it's better than having Shepard all the time.
Yeah. So I just think that
I want to do it all.
There could have been a scene where you played piano. I'm just going to say that could have been.
Could have been. Yes.
Well, it's funny they said, like, you know, it's comparing it to Shepard in The Other Lamb, comparing it to the Tremé role, and earlier you kind of said something along the lines of like, no, I'm not seeking out more horror films because I'm interested in that. I'm just trying to see what's coming my way. I'm trying to find some order here. But I'm also trying to find some order here. I'm trying to see, in terms of coming from a child star to playing music to doing these roles, to Game of Thrones, and now playing this sort of cult leader. I can't help but think that you are looking for something in your next creative choice. There's something driving you creatively.
Yeah, I think so too.
What is it? Do you
but it's always the challenge as an actor. I think, or you know, you're trying to build a career, and so you have to sort of find this balance in making the right choices and saying no to the projects that are not right for you, but you're also sort of dependent on what comes your way. You know? And I find that exciting and challenging. You know?
Well, it's been so nice to talk to you. Before we let you go, I want to ask you the question we kind of been asking everybody when they come through the door here. How does my jacket look? No, I'm only joking. It's what's the one film that changed your life and why?
Oh God.
What's a film that changed your life and why?
Okay. You know, working with Margot, the director of The Other Lamb, was very inspiring because she sort of opened my eyes to all these movies that I hadn't seen before, and especially some of the Eastern European greats that, you know, I'm almost embarrassed to admit I had never seen. I had never watched a movie by Tarkovsky, for example, and I found that thrilling, like insanely inspiring. So maybe I can pick a filmmaker, and one that I only recently discovered, and that's Tarkovsky.
Any particular film, if we wanted to watch it, we should check out?
I would say Mirror.
Great. It's nice talking to you, man. Thanks for coming.
Likewise.